The clock on the wall ticked in the silence of the night. Tick, tick, tick. It was 2 a.m. The old house slept under a blanket of darkness, except for one room, where an old woman sat on a worn-out chair, her fingers moving slowly over the beads of a prayerful rosary. Her name was Sakina Begum, 60 years old, her hair silvered with time, her eyes still holding a glimmer of faith that refused to fade. Tears slid down her wrinkled cheeks as she whispered a prayer into the emptiness. Ya Allah, soften my son's heart. Guide him back to the right path. Her son's name was Rayan, 27, handsome, educated, ambitious. He had once been her pride, her everything. But now, he lived far away, in the heart of the city, buried under wealth, arrogance, and the illusion of independence, the memories of innocence. Years ago, mornings in that same house used to echo with laughter. Sakina would gently comb Rayan's hair before school, tucking his shirt neatly into his trousers. She would place a warm egg roll and bread in his lunchbox and say softly, "Rayan, never lie, my son. Lies turn a man's face dark before his own soul." And little Rayan would giggle, eyes bright and pure. Greater than, "I'll be just like you, Mama, always honest." Sakina would kiss his forehead and laugh. The world was simple, then pure, kind, and full of light. But time is a cruel sculptor. It shapes innocence into something unrecognizable. The change? 15 years later, the same house had turned quiet. The laughter was gone. Only the ticking clock and the whisper of old memories remained. Sakina still woke early every morning to make tea, even though no one drank it with her anymore. One day, as Rayan was typing on his laptop during a visit home, she asked gently, "Beta, have you prayed today?" Without looking up, he replied coldly, "Mom, I have a meeting in 5 minutes. You wouldn't understand. I'm busy." Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. She simply lowered her gaze and whispered a prayer under her breath. Ya Allah, protect him from his own arrogance. From that day, she prayed for him every single night, her tears soaking the prayer mat. The poison of pride. One evening, Rayan came home with his phone in hand and a confident tone in his voice. Greater than, "Mom, I've decided to move out. I'm buying an apartment in the new city center. It's time I live my own life." Sakina looked at him, her heart trembling. Greater than, "But Beta, how will I live here alone?" He frowned. "Mom, please don't start. I can't grow if I'm trapped here. You'll be fine. I'll visit on weekends." She tried to smile, her voice breaking. Greater than, "All right, my son, if that's what makes you happy." And then the words that pierced her heart. "I just need space. Ma, I can't live with someone who's always crying or worrying about religion. I want peace." That night when he left, she stood by the door long after his car disappeared down the street. Her tears fell silently as she turned to her prayer rug once again. Greater than, "My Lord," she whispered, "if this is the path he has chosen, then don't stop him. Just don't let him lose himself. Let him learn, but protect his honor." The empty house. The following weeks were quiet. Days turned into months, and the walls of the house began to age like her, covered in dust, yet still standing strong. Rayan called once a week, sometimes less. When he did, he sounded happy, busy, successful. He had everything: luxury apartment, friends, car, money. But at night, when he looked out his window, he sometimes heard her voice in his head, soft and distant, like an echo from another world. "Beta, stay honest. Stay kind." He would shake his head and sip his drink, pushing away the guilt that threatened to surface. The fall. 3 years later, Rain's name flashed across news screens and social media feeds. Greater than, corporate manager accused in major fraud case. The world that had once praised him now turned its back. His colleagues disappeared, and his so-called friends blocked his number. His life, his pride, shattered overnight. He sat in his empty apartment, surrounded by silence, shame, and fear. For the first time, he remembered his mother's trembling voice. Lies darken the soul. And for the first time, he cried. The return. After 3 years of separation, Rayan stood once again at his mother's door. He looked thinner, broken, and lost. The weight of guilt pressed on his shoulders like a mountain. He knocked softly at first, then harder. The door creaked open. Sakina stood there, older now, weaker, but her eyes still held that same warmth. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she opened her arms. He fell into them like a child, sobbing uncontrollably. Greater than, "Mom, everyone left me. No one believes me. I've lost everything." Sakina placed her hand gently on his head. "Greater than, you haven't lost everything, Beta. You still have a mother who'd never stop praying for you. Mom, forgive me. I was cruel to you." A mother never holds anger. Rayan, she only waits for her child to come home. Tears fell on her hands as he whispered again and again, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." That night, he fell asleep with his head in her lap, just like he had as a boy. Outside, the rain fell, washing away the dust of years. A new promise. At dawn, after the Fajr prayer, they stood together on the rooftop. The sky glowed softly with pink light. The city was still asleep. Rayan turned to her and said, "Mom, from today I'll live only for what's right. I promise, no more lies, no more arrogance. I'll rebuild everything, but with honesty this time." Sakina smiled faintly, her voice steady with peace. "Greater than, and I promise my son that as long as I live, your name will be in every prayer I make." They both raised their hands to the sky. Their prayers mingled with the cool morning breeze, a mother's love meeting a son's redemption. That night, when Sakina opened her old diary, she wrote one last line before sleeping. "My lord, I have kept my promise. Now please keep yours." The beads of her tasbih glowed faintly in the lamplight, as the night whispered peace around her. But their story wasn't over. The promise was about to be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. The morning sun slipped gently through the curtains, spreading its gold across the old house. Rayan sat by the window, sipping tea made by his mother, the same taste he had once taken for granted. Now the most comforting flavor in the world. It had been 3 months since his return. 3 months of trying to make up for years of distance. 3 months of silence slowly turning into laughter again. Sakina would often smile quietly, watching her son sweep the courtyard or fix broken shelves. He didn't have a job anymore. Not yet. But he was rebuilding something greater. His peace. Scene 1. The simple morning. "Ma," Rayan said one morning, carrying a tray with 2 cups of tea. "I made this. Don't say it's bad before tasting it." Sakina chuckled softly. "When did you learn to make tea?" "Since my best cook refused to come back to the city," he teased. She laughed, shaking her head. "You used to say you didn't have time for breakfast." He looked down. "I had time, Ma, I just didn't have sense." Sakina reached out and patted his hand. "Sense comes when hearts break, Beta. It's all His mercy that yours broke early." They both smiled, the kind of smile that hides pain but radiates hope. Scene 2. A new start. One evening, Rayan walked into his mother's room, holding a few papers. "Ma, I've been offered a small job. It's not much, but it's honest work." Sakina looked up from her tasbih, her eyes bright. "What kind of job, Beta?" "In a charity foundation. I'll help with accounts and paperwork. It's not corporate or fancy, but it feels right." She nodded with satisfaction. "That's the work that blesses your risk. Clean hands, clean heart." Rayan smiled. "It won't make me rich." Sakina smiled back. "It will make you whole." He exhaled deeply, feeling, for the first time in years, that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Scene 3. The first sign. As months passed, Rayan began to notice small things. Sometimes, his mother would cough for long hours. Sometimes, she would forget to eat. Her hands trembled more than before. "Ma, are you okay?" he asked one night. She smiled faintly, hiding the discomfort. "Just old bones, Beta. Nothing to worry about." But he worried anyway. That night, when she fell asleep, he sat beside her, looking at her frail face illuminated by the moonlight. he whispered. You prayed for me when I was lost. Now it's my turn to pray for you. The hospital. 2 weeks later, Sakina fainted while praying. Rayan panicked, carrying her in his arms to the nearby hospital. The smell of antiseptic, the cold white lights, the sound of machines, it all blurred together. When the doctor came out, Rayan stood up instantly, greater than, Doctor, is she okay? The doctor sighed softly, greater than, she's stable for now. But she has a heart condition, years of stress, high blood pressure. She needs rest and care. Rayan's throat tightened. Can it be treated? We'll try medication. But she must not go through any emotional stress. Rayan nodded, swallowing the storm inside him. When he entered the room, Sakina smiled weakly. Greater than. See? I told you it's nothing. He sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. Greater than. You scared me, Ma. Don't ever do that again. Beta, she whispered, don't cry. Whatever time I have left, I want it to be filled with peace and your laughter. Don't talk like that, he said quickly, tears in his eyes. You'll be fine. I'll make sure of it. A quiet battle. Weeks passed. Rayan took full care of her, cooked, cleaned, read her favorite Quran verses aloud. Every evening they would sit in the courtyard as the sun set behind the rooftops. Sakina would listen silently while Rayan talked about his new work helping orphans, handling donations, learning patience and humility. You've changed, Beta, she said one evening. Rayan smiled faintly. I had to. You made a promise to God, I couldn't break it. She chuckled softly. And you made one to me, remember? Yes, he said. To live truthfully? To rebuild what I destroyed? The silence that followed was tender, like the pause between two heartbeats. The call. One night, as Rayan worked late at his small desk, his phone rang. It was his former company, the one that had accused him years ago. Mr. Rayan, the voice said. After a thorough audit, your name has been cleared. The fraud case wasn't your doing. We want to offer you your position back, with compensation. For a moment, Rayan froze. His heart pounded. This was everything he had once lost. Power, reputation, success. But as he looked at his mother's open prayer mat across the room, something in him softened. Greater than, thank you, he said calmly. But I've found where I belong. He ended the call and exhaled deeply as if releasing years of burden. Then he whispered, Ma, your prayers, they never missed their mark. The storm within? The next morning, Rayan woke to the sound of coughing, deep, painful coughing. He rushed to his mother's side. She smiled through the pain. I'm fine, Beta. It's just a little harder to breathe today. He called the doctor again, but she stopped him. No more hospitals. I want to be home. Rayan sat by her bed, his hands trembling. Ma, please don't say that. Listen, Rayan, she said softly. I made a promise to pray for you till my last breath. That promise is almost complete. No, he said, voice breaking. Don't talk like that. It's not goodbye, Beta, she whispered. It's a return the same way you came back to me. Every soul returns home. Tears streamed down his face as he held her hands tighter. The promise renewed. Days later, her condition worsened. The doctor said quietly, "Prepare yourself," but Rayan refused to believe it. He prayed day and night, refusing to leave her side. One evening, as the call for Maghrib echoed, Sakina opened her eyes. Greater than Rayan. He leaned closer. "Yes, Ma. Promise me. You won't stop praying, even when I'm gone. I promise. And keep helping others. Never let pride touch you again." "I won't, Ma, I swear." She smiled faintly, her lips moving in silent dicker. Her hand slowly relaxed in his. And just as the final note of the azan faded, her soul slipped away, peaceful, gentle, fulfilled. After the sunset, Rayan buried his mother beside his father in the small graveyard behind their old house. He stood there long after everyone had left, staring at the simple stone that read, "Sakina Begum, a mother who never broke her promise." He knelt beside it, whispering, "You prayed for my soul, Ma. Now it's my turn to pray for yours." He closed his eyes, tears falling freely. The wind blew softly, carrying the scent of roses and earth. The legacy. Months later, Rayan opened a small orphanage named the Sakina Home. Every child there called him by. Every evening he would sit in the courtyard and tell them stories about kindness, honesty, and the strength of a mother's prayer. Sometimes, when the wind blew at dusk, he could almost hear her voice. "I'm proud of you, Beta." He would smile, look toward the sky, and whisper, "Ma, I kept my promise too." The morning light crept into the courtyard of the Sakina home. Children's laughter echoed through the halls, small feet pattering across tiled floors, voices rising in play. Rayan stood by the doorway, watching them with a faint smile. He had painted the walls with bright colors, yellow, blue, and white, his mother's favorite hues, but behind his calm smile lived a quiet ache. Every morning before breakfast, he would visit her grave. He never missed a day. The routine of healing. "Go, Rayan, come play cricket," shouted little Hamza, holding a broken bat. Rayan laughed softly. "Uncle Rayhan has paperwork, champ. You go play and I'll join after tea." "But you always say that," the boy pouted. Rayan knelt down, smiling. "All right, deal. If you hit 1-6, I'll skip all paperwork to next day." The children cheered. As they ran off, Rayan looked up at the sky, the clouds drifting lazily, sunlight breaking through. He whispered softly, "You'd have loved this place, Ma. It's noisy, but peaceful." Inside the small office, a framed photograph of Sakina Begum sat beside a Quran. Underneath it, a small note read, "Serve others and you'll find me in every prayer." The storm returns. One afternoon, while reviewing documents, Rayan received a letter, an official notice. The government planned to take back the land where the Sakina home stood, to build a commercial complex. His hands trembled as he read the words. Eviction notice. Senshadeth. He rushed to the local office. The officer, a well-dressed man with cold eyes, barely looked up. Greater than, "You don't own the land, Mr. Rayan. It belongs to the city. You can appeal, but it won't help." "Sir, please," Rayan said, voice cracking. "This place is home to 42 children. It's not just a building, it's their world." "Then you should have registered it properly," the officer said dryly. "Rules are rules." As Rayan left the office, rain began to pour, sudden, heavy, relentless. He stood under the downpour, eyes closed, whispering, "Ma, what do I do now?" The night of prayers. That night, Rayan gathered the children in the hall. He didn't tell them about the notice. Instead, he said gently, "Tonight, we'll all pray together. For strength, for guidance." The little ones sat in rows, tiny hands raised, eyes closed. Rayan stood behind them, leading the dua. "O Allah, protect our home and the hearts that live within it." When he finished, he sat alone for a long time, staring at his mother's photo. Her smile seemed almost alive, greater than, "Ma," he whispered, "I kept my promise. I lived with honesty, I served others, but why does life still test me? And in the silence of that room, a faint memory echoed her voice. When Allah tests you again, it means He still sees goodness in you. He closed his eyes. Then I won't fail, meh. Not this time. The fight for home. The next morning, Rayan began gathering documents, witnesses, and support. He met lawyers, volunteers, and even journalists. Soon, news spread. Man fights to save orphanage built in memory of his mother. People began visiting, donating money, signing petitions. Within a week, the Sakina home had become a symbol of hope. One evening, an old man arrived, dressed in simple clothes. He introduced himself as Mr. Khalid, the father of one of Rayan's former co-workers. Greater than, my son told me once about a man named Rayan, he said. He said you took the blame for something you didn't do. Rayan smiled faintly. That's all in the past. I was part of that company's board, the man continued, his eyes soft with regret. We ruined your name once. Let me help fix it now. He placed a folder on the table. Documents proving that the land had been donated years ago to Rayan's late father under a trust clause. Rayan blinked in disbelief. Greater than. This could save everything. It will, the old man said. You've done enough good. Now let Allah return it. The courtroom. Days later, Rayan stood before the judge presenting the documents. The hall was filled with supporters, volunteers, children, and neighbors. The city lawyer argued coldly. This building stands on public land. It must be cleared. Rayan stepped forward, voice steady but emotional. Greater than. Your Honor, this land holds the dreams of orphans. It was built with my mother's prayers, not corruption or greed. If you take it away, you don't just destroy a building. You destroy the faith these children have in goodness. The courtroom fell silent. After reviewing the documents, the judge finally spoke. The court recognizes the validity of the donation trust. The Sakina home shall remain under Mr. Rayan's care. Tears filled Rayan's eyes. He whispered under his breath, You did it again, Ma. Your prayers still protect me. The children hugged him tightly when he returned, cheering, We won! We won! Rayan smiled through tears. No, we believed. That's what made us win. The Festival of Light. Months later, the Sakina home celebrated Eid. The courtyard was filled with lanterns, laughter, and the smell of biryani. Rayan walked among the children, handing out gifts, each with a small card that read, From a mother's heart, with love. That night, after everyone slept, Rayan went to his mother's grave. He placed a single rose and whispered, Ma, your promise is now mine. I'll never stop serving others till my last breath. He sat there for a long time, gazing at the stars, and for a moment, the wind blew softly, carrying a scent of jasmine and peace. He closed his eyes, feeling her presence like a warm embrace, greater than. Rest easy, Ma. Your promise lives on in every smile, every prayer, every heartbeat for here. 10 years passed. The Sakina home had grown into a large community center with schools, clinics, and shelters. Rayan's hair had turned gray at the temples, but his heart was still full of light. One morning, a little girl named Aisha asked him, Uncle Rayan, who was Sakina Begum? He smiled gently. She was the reason all of this exists. She made a promise to never stop praying for her child. And did she keep it? The girl asked innocently. Rayan's eyes softened. Every single day. Even now, she still keeps it. He looked toward the courtyard, children playing, birds circling above, the air filled with laughter. And in that moment, he felt her again, her calm, eternal presence. Watching, guiding, blessing, greater than. A mother's prayer never dies. It lives in the silence between heartbeats, in every good deed her child does, and in every soul her love has touched.